As you walk into the lobby of the Summertown High School gymnasium, you find yourself surrounded by numerous state championship banners and trophies. Each giant banner on the wall represents years of dedication, hard work, and sacrifice by young athletes, determined coaches, and supportive families.
Winning their first girls state golf title, the young ladies from Summertown High School. Second consecutive girls state golf championship, the two-day total of 300 young ladies from Summertown High School. Your 2020 girls state champions, finishing with a two-day score of 289, also winning their third consecutive state girls golf title, young ladies from Summertown High School.
Each banner has its own unique story, its own unique group of student athletes and coaches coming together, overcoming countless challenges, and achieving the ultimate goal, a high school state championship. With each of those championships, there are celebrations, recognitions, and at least with most of the team sports in Summertown, a parade on Highway 20.
Set to the outside, looking for long. It's off the block. It stays on the Loretto side and falls. Point to Summertown. They are your 2020 Division I Class A state volleyball champions.
But like all great traditions, there was a first championship. There was a first trophy raised in the air, a first giant-sized team photo on the wall, and there was a first parade. To help tell the story from 30 years ago, we'll be talking with several of the players and coaches who experienced it all.
Robin Kidd, number 33. I was a senior in 1992 and pitched and played first base.
Scott Haddock, sophomore year, number 23 at third base, the hot corner.
Jason Burleson, a sophomore, number 25, shortstop and pitcher.
Doug Lucius, award number 17, played right field as a junior.
My name's Brent Blackwood. I was a junior catcher for the Summertown Eagles back in 1992.
John Campbell, sophomore, wore number 12 and played second base.
My name is Rick Haddock. I was a head coach at Summertown Eagles.
I'm Kenny Campbell, the assistant baseball coach for Ricky Haddock and the Summertown High School baseball team.
So started when I was 5 or 6, the Pee Wee League at Summertown Little League Park.
I wanna be a baseball star with my picture on the baseball card. I want to be the guy that wins the game and hear the crowd yelling out my name. I want to stand and watch the ball sail across the left field wall. I'll be a hero near and far when I'm a baseball star.
But I had an older brother, Greg, that was already playing baseball, and then I had a younger brother, Adam, that played baseball also. But with 3 boys in the household, it was easy to get outside and play.
Which then was Little League. I was never on the same team as Jason or Greg and Robin and all them. We were all totally different teams. I remember playing for the Bankers.
The same field they still play on today, and the stands still look the same, and it's kind of neat to go back and see that.
Baseball for me was, I guess, the first love of any sport I ever played, just because it's one of the first ones we started playing. Didn't have football.
They put my name on a candy bar when I'm a baseball star. I wanna win the Triple Crown. That don't get me in the Cooperstown. What goes on? They put my name on a candy bar when I'm a baseball star. I wanna be a baseball star. I wanna be a baseball star.
If your only memories of the Summertown baseball field are from the past 15 years, you might be surprised to know what the field looked like in 1992.
The best I remember about the field, John Cook was the one that kind of designed the way it faced.
Back then, most everybody had a skin infield.
It was dirt infield. It wasn't grass infield then. And grass on the infield, we didn't even know what that was. If we played at a field that had grass, we was like amazed.
Had to drag the whole thing to get it smoothed out, ready to go. It was a little bit more difficult on rainy days to get it ready to play on. We've done everything from spread sawdust to actually burning the field off to try to dry it up.
Rainy games and stuff, we'd burn it off sometimes.
No, you did not pay to get in ball games at that time.
Post in the outfield, the foul pole was maybe 5 feet high. You couldn't tell if it was an actual foul ball or fair ball.
I remember the old chain link fences and old wooden posts with holes in them from the woodpeckers and things that got in them.
I do remember Larry going back in center field, making a catch and flipping plumb over the fence.
One of our region tournaments, it's on one of the videos, Larry Parrott goes to catch a ball in center field and literally flips over the fence, but the fence is already halfway down. When he hit the fence just laid down because it was already halfway down.
I mean, Larry made some great catches in his career, was a great player, great center fielder, but that was one that I'll never forget.
I remember we sat on the first base side where the pine trees was on that side, so that's the side we always sat on and warmed up in. And our dugout was in the pines.
There were no dugouts. The visitors was just a bench, and we actually set up in pine trees, on the hill there where there was pine trees, and we would just our buddies would come sit with us, so there was really not a dugout. We just stood over there, around the pine trees.
Yeah, there was an old building, old T&I building that was set down there for the longest, and then we finally got it tore down.
Again, the old building that was out right beside, it was just a rundown building that needed to be tore down a long time before it ever was.
The agriculture building, I think it was, and I think they've had a haunted house and stuff in it. The pigeons used to stay on the building out there, and finally they tore it down, and now that's where the new field house is.
And the old building out there, there's no telling how many balls was on top of that building when they tore it down.
In left field, there was actually a hill.
Out here, I can remember there was a hump in left field.
Had a big drop off in left field.
I remember, you know, if you got somebody out there that wasn't very tall and they were standing on the bottom side of the hill, if you were at home plate, you could see them from about, you know, the knees up.
And when we had opponents come up, of course, they ain't been here. Well, if somebody hit a fly ball, when you went you went down.
We actually won a ball game one time because I don't think it was a senior year, but somebody hit a fly ball to left field, and the left fielder for the other team should have caught it. Well, he tripped on the hill as he was coming down the hill.
But the field was a lot different. A lot of people always kind of picked at it and made fun of it when they'd come in from bigger towns and things, but they just had a hard time playing on it, and it was just a spot that was home to us.
After we won the state championship, a lot of money started coming in to getting poured into the field.
Coach Haddock, he was a good coach. I enjoyed him and things because he always made it fun.
Oh, he was a card. He was always joking. But as far as Rick, he was a cut up. We gave him a hard time, and he gave us a hard time. Of course, we all had him in school as a teacher, and we got a little rowdy in his classes. But he was a card. I play golf with him now. He's a card at golf.
So Rick, as we always called him, Coach Haddock, it was, you know, listen, it was always loose. You know, it was always, you know, it was always fun.
I don't know how he did it all those years. He wouldn't throw hard, and I guess that's why he could always throw as long as he did. But we'd always try to see who could hit him because he never threw with a nail screen, and we always wanted to hear him go, "Ugh!"
But Ricky made baseball fun, but when those kids got between the lines, it was serious business. We were out there to play our best and try to win.
Let's go.
Coach Haddock was the reverse of Coach McBee. Not the intensity, but you could get away with a lot more.
But yeah, the McBee practice and the Ricky Haddock practice were a little different. Yeah, a little more intense in the basketball. Coach Haddock he's a baseball guy. He knows the game of baseball very well. I feel like I respect it as a coach and everything, but he's also, you know, I feel like he's a coach you could talk to. He's a baseball guy. You know, he still umpires today, I think, some.
It's funny now because Rick umpires games now, and so he was at my son's game umpiring last year, and I asked him before the game, I said, so do you want me to talk to you like you used to talk to umpires whenever you were coaching?
Dad's interaction with umpires, you know, for the most part, he never really got ticked off regarding strike zones. But if there was a close call and the umpire didn't see it his way, then he would have a few choice words. But for the most part, he kind of had a good sense of when to cool it. Like, I'm going to tell you what I think, and then I'll walk back to the coach's box and I'll stay there, but I'm still going to give you the stink eye.
As far as I know, he never got thrown out of a ball game, and I was more the mild-mannered, and I got thrown out of 2.
He was funny because this is the way he got out there, and he was just like a big kid out there with us.
I mean, I don't think I know we didn't, when I helped him, ever had a losing season ever.
Kenny's a great guy. He was with me for most of the time. We looked like Mutt and Jeff, him 6'7", 6'8", me 5'8".
But they gelled good together. They did. Rick get fired up, and Kenny was kind of the calming for him. And then at times, Kenny would get fired up, and Rick, and you didn't see that much. It was mostly the other way around. But they worked good together, had a good relationship, and they still do.
I just remember Kenny Campbell being, you know, a guy that demanded respect and you know, again, was a baseball kind of guy that knew a lot of the history of the game and the school, and you knew he was a Summertown guy and wanted to win. When you stepped on the field, you wanted to win for those guys.
He was kind of laid back. He never got real excited. There was a time or two he would get a little upset, but most part, he was always just laid back.
Kenny, very, very, very laid back, and not so many words. At times when I would get the heat from Dad, from Coach Haddock, Kenny would just kind of give me that look like, it's okay.
Playing for Kenny, my uncle, we called him Buck. He's always been Uncle Buck to us. It was intense. You know, he was through golf. He got us started in golf, but he is always like a father to us, and he didn't let us get away with a lot of the crazy stuff. At times he would, but in serious times you knew to be serious.
But one time I do remember, we were practicing for Substate, and like I say, sometimes our practices were, you know, we would get, we wouldn't be as serious as we should be, but I think he understood that, hey, we've got a chance to do something here. And I remember him, you know, really getting on us, and that's the first time I ever remember him, you know, raising his voice to us. But it was because, you know, hey, he says time for us to get serious here because, you know, we can do something if we do.
It was funny because it seemed like he never turned the blinker off whenever we'd ride in the van. It seemed like it never clicked off, and you could just hear it click, 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 click all the time.
You know, you got 3 generations right there. You got, you know, your dad coaching, I'm playing, and Trent's the bat boy.
When we went in '85, Scott was our bat boy, and then about the same age as he was, when we went in '92, Trent was my bat boy, and he enjoyed being around the older guys and being at every game, you know.
Bat boy Trent, he hurt a lot in that dugout for his age.
Yeah, so Trent was our bat boy that year. I don't know how old Trent was. 7, 8, I don't know. But the one thing I remember about Trent was he always wore that ugly fluorescent colored hat. I don't know why, you know, I don't know why we didn't give him a regular hat, but he always wore that hat. And you can see, you know, in some of the pictures that Trent has that, you know, that ugly fluorescent hat on. So, but yeah, it's kind of neat, you know, years later to see Trent, you know, in high school, and you know, just really good player. And but even when I see him now, you know, I always think back about Trent and that hat.
But and he wore this lime green hat everywhere he went, and we wasn't going to change it because it seemed like a lucky hat.
The ugly neon green hat that you can see in the pitch dark, yeah.
Old Trent had it. It's pretty neat seeing those kids as they grow up, because I was fortunate enough when Trent got old enough to start coaching him with high school and things.
So coming into that year, and I'll just say that, you know, talk about kind of the expectations of that year, we knew we were going to have a good team. But you got to remember at that time that Summertown had never won a state championship.
You know, pitching is what you got to have in baseball, and I remember Greg and Robin Kidd both being our main pitchers, and then I kind of was in that third slot, and Josh Hughes was the guy that pitched a lot for us. So we had 4 pitchers that I think we felt, and the coaching staff felt, that were quality guys that can win ball games.
I don't remember that expectation was there, but I do remember 2 guys that I think believed we could. One of them was Bob Moore, and Bob, you know, he was doing pictures for the paper, and so, you know, every year he would come watch us play games, and I specifically remember him coming up before the season and going to make our team picture and put it in the paper and all, and Bob telling us, he said you boys are going to win the state championship this year. And the other one was Coach McBee. That was the first year I ever remember Coach McBee showing up at baseball games. About halfway through the year, he started showing up at baseball games, and I didn't see it, but at the state tournament, they said Coach McBee never sat down, and he just paced the whole time during our games. He just paced back and forth.
I remember us losing to Lawrenceburg twice. One time we had a lead on them at Lawrenceburg. Greg was actually sick, didn't play that game. I think he had the flu or something. And we actually had a lead going in the last inning and lost it 9-8. And then when they came here, Lawrenceburg beat us pretty bad. And the only other losses we had that year, Collinwood was really good, and they had beaten us in the tournament, and we had to come back, I think, and win in the tournament.
But then we started getting into that groove, and I'm not sure how many it was, but I think we won like 13 straight.
Greg Burleson won the 1992 Single A Mr. Baseball Award. Here you'll see the schedule he kept during his senior year, showing the scores from each game and his personal stats. The Eagles finished the regular season with 13 wins and 4 losses and charged into Collinwood for the district tournament. That district championship did not come easily. Collinwood always seemed to be a tough district opponent in those days, and Summertown ultimately had to play them 3 times. But they did and won. Winning the district tournament was nothing new for Summertown. It was that next round, the regional tournament, that always seemed to be a stumbling block.
The district tournament, what I remember a lot about it is Josh Hughes coming in and pitching against Collinwood, I want to say through 10 innings over there that day, and was able to win one of the games for us and started another one. And without him, we may not win that district tournament.
Then we went to the region tournament, and we played Mount Pleasant first round, and we felt like we were a better team than Mount Pleasant. Greg pitched just lights out, and so we wound up winning that game 6-0. And then we had to play Columbia Academy, and Columbia Academy was always kind of our nemesis. I mean, they were always really good. So they were coming in, and they had a guy that everybody in the area knew. He was the pitcher everybody talked about.
We were going up against Columbia Academy, and we were throwing Greg Burleson, and they were throwing Richie Estep.
And I think Greg pitched that game and faced off against Richie Estep, who's the coach there now.
Richie Estep was pitching, and he was CA's #1 guy, and it was always a battle whenever he pitched.
We jumped on him pretty quick. I remember, I hit a line drive right back at the pitcher's head, first inning, RBI.
I don't know what it was. We just kind of got on a roll right there where we were just wearing the ball out, and just we hit him and hit him and hit him. And I've mentioned it to him, but again, a couple of years ago we were talking about that game or something, and he just said he couldn't remember him hitting like that.
But I remember Larry Parrott hitting a home run and Greg hitting a home run.
We had, I think Greg and Larry Parrott hit home runs that game, and so we wound up beating them 8-0.
Really, the only thing I remember about that game is when they throw Doug Lucius out at home, and he stood up and the catcher was jawing with him, and he turned around and points at the scoreboard and walks off. I do remember that.
We just knocked them out of the game. We just hit them like crazy. And I thought, we're ready for the state. Like, we're ready for the state if we can do this against Richie Estep.
Which that propelled us to the Friday night game against Forest.
The next game was Substate, and we played Forest, and I pitched that one.
Forest was just unreal. I mean, we just jumped out on them.
And then I remember going 3 for 4 in that game, hit 2 doubles and a home run in that game. And the home run I hit was in, I think, the 6th inning. We were up 8-0 and hit a 2-run homer to walk it off and win 10-0.
And I don't remember a ton about that game. I remember Jason Burleson ended the game on a home run, and we beat them 10-0.
I don't recall anyone going into a slump before the state tournament. So when you've got everyone connecting and you're hitting and everything's going well, and your guys are throwing shutouts, right, and goose eggs, you're like, bring it on.
And then it was graduation, and then the next week we were going to go to Murfreesboro and play in the state tournament. So it was funny because I remember, graduation's kind of a final thing, but it almost didn't make graduation as sad because we were like, hey, we're still playing baseball.
The first game we played in the state championship at Murfreesboro was Johnson City.
Now, after we arrived, then you see the field, you're thinking, wow, this place is pretty huge.
Here I am ready to go, all excited being there. The biggest field I've ever been on in my life, and at MTSU, and it was cool and cloudy and things, and hearing the national anthem, all of those things.
I started Greg Burleson as pitcher.
I remember Greg pitched a great game, a lights out game, and I mean, he probably struck out, 9 to 10 batters.
Greg pitched great that game, and it's just one of those things. They had a kid that was a catcher that he hits like a 3-run home run or something, and we're like, wow, I mean, that was impressive. And we hear that this kid never hit home runs.
The catcher, he hit that home run, and if I ain't mistaken, I think that was only like his second or third one he had hit all year, and he hit this one off his knee.
The one thing that unfortunately that did us in was their one guy that hit the 3-run homer from his knee. It was the most god-awful swing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I do remember on the second inning when it went off, just kind of watching in amazement, because there was no doubt when it was hit, it was gone.
And again, I'm not going to call that a mistake, because that wasn't a mistake. That was just a lucky swing. We'll call it that, right?
We did hear before the game that their pitcher, their guy, was one of the best pitchers in the state. We heard this crazy stat, if I remember it right. It was he had give up like one earned run all year long.
They throwed their best pitcher, and he was throwing it good, had a good curve.
I remember stepping into the box my first at bat, and I struck out, and I go back to the dugout trying to get my my equipment on, and my hands were just shaking so bad. I'll never forget that feeling.
We scored 2 on him in the first inning of that game.
Greg had the triple. I think he led off with the triple.
First time I batted, I got a base hit. I think I scored the second run, and that was the only hit I had in the whole state tournament. I do remember that. Yeah, Greg and I, for whatever reason, we just struggled offensively up there. I think, you know, Greg wound up having 2 or 3 hits the whole tournament. You know, we were the number 3 and 4 hitters.
I do remember them jumping out 3-0 on us. We come back with 2 runs in the bottom of the inning, and didn't score after that. So I think they ended up beating us 5-2.
You know, it was kind of a little kick in the stomach and kind of woke us up, I guess you could say.
After the game, I mean, we were all upset, you know, thinking that here we are, been rolling through, and then all of a sudden we lost, and you lose a little bit of that enthusiasm.
But even losing that ball game, I don't remember coming home and being like, well, we're done, we're finished. I felt like we had a good enough team to go back and win.
I mean, yeah, we were disappointed, but there was no like hanging our heads like, well, small town Tennessee, maybe we shouldn't be here. We basically said, okay, we just got to come through the losers bracket and beat everybody now.
I told them after it was over with, I said, guys, you seen what the competition is. We're as good as they are. We need to come back strong tomorrow and do our thing.
Moving into that loser bracket, having to play in the mornings was a little rough because not used to playing early, getting up and going, and it makes a big difference there. But we were all ready to go. I think we knew we still had it in us.
After our game, I stuck around and watched the next game to see what kind of competition we had to face the next day, and I wasn't impressed by them too much. And like I say, I went back and I told the guys, I said, we're as good as anybody out there. We played Lake County the next day in the losers bracket.
Horrible conditions, horrible. And we didn't play well, they didn't play well. The weather conditions, I'm not going to make excuses, but the weather conditions did kind of play a little bit of a part in that.
You know, the weather, like I said, it kind of turned off cool. It was kind of misty rain that whole week. It wasn't, you know, our ideal baseball weather.
Robin Kidd was the pitcher.
And, you know, I think I walked the first batter of the game, which, you know, I didn't walk many people. And then maybe threw 2 balls to the second batter because I remember my dad in the stands saying, come on, Robin, you know.
Come on, throw a strike!
So I remember stepping off the back of the mound and kind of regrouping and then coming in. And, you know, once I got settled in, you know, we were good.
I just remember Robin throwing a good game like he always did. It seemed like he was always going to give you a chance to win a ball game.
Robin pitched a great game that game. If I remember, I think he went the entire game.
I believe in fate too. I mean, you got to have a lot of luck and you got to have a good team and all that. But I believe sometimes fate is on your side or higher power, that things are meant to be.
And when fate is on your side, you may just score 3 runs on 3 errors. In the top of the second inning, Jason Burleson singled to center field. Brent Blackwood walked. What does it take to score Jason Burleson from second base? An Aaron Bailey bunt, of course. The Eagles are up 1-0 in the second. Next up is John Campbell, and he'll reach with some help from the Lake County second baseman, scoring Brent Blackwood, giving the Eagles a 2-0 lead. Now in the top of the third, it's Greg Burleson, who reaches on an infield single. Then, with Robin Kidd at the plate, Greg Stills second. Robin Kidd will bring in the eventual winning run from second base, and he does it with a strikeout.
We got a lead on them 3-0. I was pitching probably as well as I could pitch. We had one inning to where, I think we actually had a couple of errors, which was rare, for us.
We actually played better against Johnson City and got beat than we played against Lake County and won 3-2. Yeah, but both teams, we did not do well at all.
With the exception of that 6th inning, the Eagle defense was solid. And holding on to a 3-2 lead, Robin Kidd struck out 2 more in the 7th. And the final out was a ground ball to Scott Haddock, securing the 3-2 win over Lake County.
Prettiest one we've had all year, but we'll make it. How you feel about the win today, Coach Haddock?
Feel great.
Feels pretty good, don't it?
2 trips that we've made, that's the first victory we've had.
We've got to start hitting the balls. Our main thing, we're not hitting.
Tell me a little about the game. Huh?
The coach liked to lost, and I'll tell you about the game.
Everybody's hiding from me.
One thing about Lake County that it's kind of ironic now, the assistant baseball coach at Lake County that year was Rick Rice. Now Rick Rice is going to be the football coach here at Summertown.
In other words, 5 of the current SHS coaches in 2022 were participating in this game 30 years ago. In this play, the current golf and baseball coaches are playing second base and shortstop, while the current softball coach is being run over at first base, and the current football coach is checking up on him to make sure he's okay. And don't forget about your little 2-year-old basketball coach watching from the stands.
After we played Lake County and put them out, Davidson County had beaten Johnson City right after we got through. So we had to play Johnson City in the elimination game. And it was one of those games that back and forth, back and forth.
I know that game, we was wore out as coaches.
That 9-8 back and forth with Johnson City was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can remember this one.
Josh Hughes started the ball game.
I remember through the regular season having to battle with him because he'd always throw in the dirt a bunch, and I'd get mad and want to fire the ball real hard back to him. But he pitched well, just an old, big old, tall, lanky guy.
And I want to say this because I give it a lot of credit to the reason we were able to win the state championship that year. Josh Hughes, Herm.
Big Herm.
Herm had not pitched a whole lot that year. Of course, being in the loser's bracket, then we had to play a lot of games. And so Herm had to pitch that game. And listen, he kept us in the game. I specifically remember, and again, we talk about Rick in-game decisions and all. I remember thinking that game, why aren't we starting Jason? Jason's the one that needs to be starting this game, but he understood that, listen, we've got to get some innings in, and so it was huge for Josh Hughes to give us the innings he gave and keep us in the game.
But we give up runs, we had walks, we scored runs, they'd score to go back up.
Johnson City walked 3 times in the first inning, but only 1 run scored thanks to solid defense, including Brent Blackwood's arm on this steal attempt. Summertown scored more runs in the top of the 3rd inning alone than they had scored in the previous 2 games combined. All 9 Eagles came to the plate. Here's a 1-minute summary of that 3rd inning. John Campbell singles. Doug Lucius bunts John to second. Larry Parrott doubles to left, scoring Campbell for the first run. The pitcher makes a wild pickoff to second base, moving Parrott to third. Scott Haddock then walks and promptly steals second. Parrott scores on a wild pitch for the second run. Haddock moves to third. Greg Burleson walks and promptly steals second. Haddock scores on another wild pitch for the 3rd run of the inning.
That guy for them was not on. A lot of walks, a lot of wild pitches.
Robin Kidd grounds out. Jason Burleson singles to score his brother for the 4th run. Brent Blackwood singles and takes second on a bad throw. Aaron Bailey singles to left, scoring the 5th and 6th runs of the inning. Then Campbell back at the plate, who began the inning, pops up to second for the final out. The score is 6-1, Summertown.
This is a game to me that stood out as far as this is where I think everybody kind of contributed. I want to say Aaron Bailey had a real good day that day, maybe 3 hits. I think I had 2 or 3 hits that day.
But 6 runs were not enough. Johnson City immediately responded with 3 runs of their own. The Eagles needed to add on, and they did just that in the top of the 4th. Leading off the inning, Doug Lucius doubled to right field.
Wow. Me leading off with a double, that was big. That was a shocker.
He would later score on a wild throw to second as Scott Haddock stole second. Greg Burleson's deep fly out to center scored Haddock to make it 8-4 Summertown. Herm held Johnson City scoreless in the 4th, but ran out of gas in the 5th and handed the ball over to another sophomore.
And I think maybe it was 8-8, 8-7 when I come in.
I had to bring Jason Burleson in to pitch the last few innings of that game.
Went on, and I do specifically remember them getting a kid on first base, and he was actually like a courtesy runner or a pinch runner or something. But
Jason had a good move to first base for a right-handed pitcher.
I remember the first base coach telling that kid, he said, "Now listen, he's got a good move. Do not get picked off." First time he comes at Jason Wheels, and listen, the kid don't even move. I'm holding the ball, and he's just standing there, and we get him in a little rundown and tag out. So yeah, that was huge.
Pickoffs are kind of a bag of tricks for you there that you can pull out every now and then. You got to be good at pickoffs. And so it was something I always tried to take some pride in, was using pickoff, and I would throw over there several times in a row.
Top of the 7th, come up, and Jason got a hit. He was on first, which brought somebody that batted in between us. But anyhow, I come up, I think it was 2 outs.
And I was not the fastest runner by no means, but I remember being over there at first and like, please give me the steal sign.
Jason was on first, and the guy throws a fastball. I thought was out over the plate, a little high. They called it a strike. Pitcher comes in, and this pitcher had a curveball. He throws curveball on 0-1, and it locked me up. I remember watching the video. I lock up, falls right in there. And it comes back in. It's 0-2. On the 0-2 pitch, Jason steals.
And finally, I was able to move up on the steal.
And there's a pretty close play at second, but he gets in.
The kid was the same pitcher that pitched game 1. This was the guy that had only give up, 1 earned run all year long.
I think he threw me another fastball, and I hit to right center.
Nice!
Jason was going on contact, so he was able, and there was a throw home, but he made it pretty safely, and then we didn't score after that.
And they wouldn't have to. Jason closed out the bottom of the 7th, and the Eagles defeated Johnson City 9-8.
That eliminated Johnson City. So by playing them at 10 o'clock in the morning, we had to turn around at, I believe, 2 o'clock and play Davidson Academy. We had to beat them twice.
Dude, we were all zombies. We were tired.
Well, I was thinking we stayed the Tuesday night. We stayed in the hotel because I want to say that Larry Parrott, and Doug Lucius, and John Campbell were in my room. And we did not get much sleep that night.
We stayed at the Shoney's Inn. I'll say that me, Robin, and Greg, we did behave. I think we were, like I said, we were the ones that were more focused on the outcome.
We spent the night up there, but that didn't go good in my room. You probably done heard that. The flying eagle around the room.
Well, they called Greg and I the old men because we were seniors. Me and him stayed in the same room together. And we would hear the next morning about, all these other guys, doing goofy stuff in their room and doing this and that. Honestly, me and Greg went to bed. I mean, we went to bed and went to sleep. So they got to calling us, the old guys of the group.
I remember the other room over there between Jay and Jason and Doug and John and Herm and them and the Flying Eagle, and I think they were up all night long. I don't know if they slept any.
Some of them went on to bed. Of course, I was the rowdy ones. No, I didn't. As far as breaking the curfew, I don't know of anybody that broke the curfew. Now, my group, I done forgot who was all in. Maybe Timmy Kennick. We had a bunch of rowdy ones coming in, and that's where the Flying Eagle come in. We was taking the cover and wrapping around us and jumping from bed to bed.
No sleep last night.
No sleep. What'd you do?
We had Larry the Eagle flying around in the room.
Oh, Lord. Oh, me. Mr. Burleson and Cobb.
One time we was out on the balcony out there talking to each other something, and Timmy Kenny wanted to holler or do something, and we told him that ain't gonna work up here, you know, or whatever. But that's the only thing I can remember off the top of my head.
That's Timmy. Timmy's still shouting to the top of his lungs.
We played a Wednesday morning 10 o'clock game against Johnson City. And it seems like after we won that game, when we came back to play that afternoon, we were all sleeping on the dugout and trying to get some sleep. So I'm sure we stayed Tuesday night.
That's about all I got to say about that.
So that afternoon, I started Jason Burleson.
But I remember him coming around and just asking, do you think you've got enough left to start this game this afternoon? And I, of course I said, yeah, I think I can do it.
If you had a big game, the whole time Jason played for us, I didn't hesitate to hand him the ball, and he never refused it. He was a gamer.
If I remember correctly, I faced off against Ronnie Carter's son, Jim Carter, who was a lefty. Ronnie Carter was a TWSA director for many years. His son, Jim, who is now the head baseball coach at Goodpasture. So we faced off that night, and what's funny is, several years ago when we played Goodpasture in the state tournament, when we stepped up for the coaches meeting at home plate, that was the first thing he said is, y'all stole one from us in '92.
This also meant that Brent Blackwood had the task of catching 2 games in one day.
Then you just didn't worry about how many innings you called or what you played. You just got out there and enjoyed the time, and knowing that our backup, it was Tim McKinney. So
The game was scoreless until the 3rd inning when John Campbell led off with a walk. A Doug Lucius bunt moved Campbell to second, and that was before Doug was famous for his bunting skills. And a Larry Parrott ground out moved Campbell to third. Then it was Scott Haddock who drove in the game's first run with an RBI single to right field. Now in the bottom of the 4th inning, it's sophomore pitcher Jason Burleson who gets the offense started.
I know Jason hit one of the games up there and just absolutely crushed it, and it bounced over. So that shows you how it would have been out of any field we played in all year long, but it bounced over.
With Jason now at third thanks to a wild pitch, Brent Blackwood hits an RBI infield single to drive in the game's 2nd run.
Brent had some wheels come state tournament.
I remember JB, he had his stuff. I mean, his breaking ball that game was probably better than he'd thrown it all year.
I want to say they got a few hits on us. I want to say I pitched a 6-hitter or something. Just kind of hung in there, struck out 5 or 6. They were a good hitting ball club, and just one of those games I feel like, we didn't make errors. We fielded most balls.
In the top of the 7th, still 2-0, the Davidson Academy batter hits a line drive into left field that goes to the wall.
Yeah, and the guy tried to get a little greedy and stretch that double into a triple.
There in the later innings, we got the kid in the rundown, which was huge.
And then we got him in a rundown. I remember the ball coming in, and we all run to our places.
After Greg Burleson applies the tag on the rundown, Jason strikes out the final batter to send the Eagles to a winner-take-all rematch with Davidson Academy the following morning.
And he pitched the entire game, pitched a great game, and we beat them 2-0.
He went 7 innings. He done a heck of a job, win 2 wins in one day.
As a sophomore, he wound up pitching 10 innings in the state tournament back-to-back and didn't give up any runs in the 10 innings he pitched. So he was, he was on.
I don't remember how many pitches I threw that day. I do know that by the time we got back to the hotel room, I couldn't hardly lift my arm.
Are you tired?
Yeah, my arms feel like about jellies. Numb feeling.
How did it feel coming in after pitching 3 this morning, knowing you had to pitch?
I really don't like to do that, but I felt it. Everything went well for me this morning. The coach asked me if I wanted to pitch today. I told him my arms were feeling all right, so I went at it. What do you think about the game today, Mr. Kenny?
It's a good coach game, I tell you today. Turn around and talk. Okay, I said turn around and talk, dog. Turn around and talk, dog.
As a team, we don't have anything to lose, guys. You know, we proved that we could beat them. Let's go back and do it again.
And of course, you just beat a team, you know you can beat them again.
Losers bracket scored a run in the 3rd inning and take a 1-0 lead. In the 4th inning, Brent Blackwood with a ground ball. The throw pulls the first baseman off the bag. The run scores. That's Jason Burleson, who's also the winning pitcher. He threw a 6-hitter as they won the game. The two teams will meet again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to decide the championship. Summertown over Davidson Academy. That final 2-0. So again, one more game tomorrow morning at 10.
We knew they were good. Well, they were a private school, and it was supposed to be a loaded team.
We're a little bitty school, out here in the middle of nowhere, country, all of us country boys, most of us worked all the time. I mean, during the summer, me and Greg used to cut tobacco together, haul hay. Them kids never did see nothing like that. It's Mom and Daddy, I'm going to the mall.
They read that article about the Wooten boy wanted all the pressure that last game for Davis Academy.
Shane Wooten.
I remember the next morning, getting up, we stopped at Hardee's, and there was a guy in there reading the paper, and he looks up and says, "Hey, this is y'all right here."
And Wooten from Davidson Academy was talking that he loved the pressure. He wanted the pressure. He wanted to be in the spotlight of the game. Well, he got to be in the spotlight.
Wooten was the one that come in there, made a statement, and said, "Oh, we like big games like this. We were okay losing that game because we want it to come down to where it has to come down to the last play of the game," and in turn it did.
And Greg Burleson will pitch and bat 3rd for Summertown.
I think we all knew their best guy would be ready, but we also knew our best one was going to be ready too.
Greg Burleson, on 2 full days rest since his previous start in Game 1, got the nod as starter. The first batter for Davidson Academy doubled to left field, and the next batter reached on an infield single. With runners at the corners, Scott Haddock caught out number 1 in foul territory. It may not be talked about as much as the game's final play, but with 2 on and 1 out in the first inning, this strike 'em out, throw 'em out double play by Brent Blackwood, along with a perfect tag by Jason Burleson, was likely a game saver. Now in the bottom of the first, leadoff man Larry Parrott doubles to left. As expected, he's sacrificed to third by Scott Haddock. And eventually comes in to score on a wild pitch, giving the Eagles an early lead. As it turns out, all of the Summertown runs in this game would be scored on balls that got past the catcher.
Summertown cracks the scoreboard first in the bottom of the first. Davidson Academy Shane Wooten uncorks a wild pitch. Larry Parrott of the Eagles hightails it home for a 1-0 lead.
Remember when Coach Campbell said it was meant to be? With runners at the corners, it's a Greg Burleson wild pitch that ultimately allows him to escape the 3rd inning unscathed.
Greg and Brent especially saved our hides that particular game because there was a wild pitch. The guy on third was going to try to make it home.
The ball got slightly by Brent. Greg comes in.
Anyway, he got it quick, turned, and threw it to Greg. And Greg was like waiting for the guy at home plate. It wasn't even close.
So that was huge. And the one thing I remember that you can see on video, Greg would probably not admit to this, but It was the third out of the inning, and when Greg tagged him, you can see the ball rolling back towards the guy that just got through out at home plate. So Greg turned around and he kind of rolled the ball back at the guy.
That saved our butts, because that could have gone downhill quick.
A scoring chance in the third. On the wild pitch, catcher Brent Blackwood with a perfect peg to pitcher Greg Burleson, who tags the base runner coming from third out.
Davidson Academy would score their only runs of the game in the top of the fourth. The first run came on a double down the left field line. And the second on a 2-out double to the left field foul pole.
I think they'd hit a ball down in the corner that Michael Dickey went for but couldn't get a glove on it, and they go up on us 2-1.
They had a really, really good hitter. He was a Carter kid, and he hit one off the wall in left field, and so, so they got ahead of us, 2-1.
Davidson finally gets to Burleson in the fourth. Designated hitter Jason Wilkerson smokes one inside third. It goes for a double and scores. Jason turns. Next batter, Jim Carter, goes to the opposite field and dents the wall. Wilkerson home easily. Carter a double, 2-1 Bears.
When that happened, I remember kind of just like, well, what's going to happen?
Greg finally come out of the game. Robin comes in.
And we put Robin out there, and I think he made the statement that his arm was about to fall off too, but it was his senior year and he wasn't coming out.
I remember him asking me, are you good? And again, I had just pitched 7 innings 2 days before.
Senior Robin Kidd takes over on the mound in the top of the fifth on 1 full day's rest since his last outing. He made quick work of Davidson Academy in the fifth.
I didn't have my best stuff that day. And I remember Greg walking over to me and he said, hey, are you good? Because I'll go back out and pitch again.
However, the Bears would threaten in the top of the sixth with a man on third and only 1 out. Robin escaped the inning with a strikeout for out number 2 and by catching a line drive for the 3rd out of the inning.
And I think it was the 6th inning. They had a guy on third base, 2 outs. I was pitching. Again, I wasn't throwing it that hard that game. The kid that hit off the wall had come up to the plate, and he hits an absolute shot. I mean, right back at me, and it's just one of them things that just hits my glove, and, I catch it. And for whatever reason, I remember getting the ball in my glove and slamming it down on the ground, and that wasn't me. I mean, I usually, I didn't do stuff like that.
Now in the top of the 7th, Summertown would need 1 more scoreless inning from Robin to keep the deficit at 1 for their final at bat. With the help of a superior defense behind him, Robin was able to do just that.
Well, I remember they had a 2-1 lead on us.
They were ahead, and of course it came down to the last inning, and we were the home team.
It's just, we just knew we had to do something.
We had to get in the dugout and prep it up, get cheering on. Let's go, guys. Let's put the bat on the ball.
I remember leading off the inning and hitting a chopper to third base that he mishandled and getting on first.
Obviously, Jason starts off the inning and hits a 2-hopper that catches the third baseman in between hops, and he gets on an error.
Something about the way it was going out there, I just thought that guy ain't going to make a play. He's going to get on first.
I remember Jason getting on in front of me. I was able to get a base hit into left field in between the 5-6 hole.
And then Brent come up and hit a single through the 5-6 hole, just a hard ground ball that went through the hole. So that's first and second.
Brent hits curveball. Like it was perfect. You could just see it on the replay of the DVD, how it just fell right into his wheelhouse. And of course he gets a single, which puts Jason at second and him at first.
Aaron Bailey come up and was going to bunt to move us to second and third, but I think laid down such a good bunt that now we have the bases loaded.
And Aaron laid down just an absolute great bunt. And he was just going to move the runners over, but the bunt was so good, that he beat it out.
We got bases loaded with nobody out. I was bound and determined to try to score that run any way I could. And John Campbell came to the plate.
We got to get a run across. So, you have that pressure, but, the day before I was in that, you felt good about it. And I don't even remember the count, but I remember looking down and Rick give the squeeze.
John Campbell comes up and he's going to try to squeeze us in.
I gave him the bunt sign, and he laid down a good bunt. Jason was on third base. When he bunted the ball, it hit off the plate or right in front of the plate and come up and hit him off the shin or leg. And I don't think anybody saw it but me and the third base umpire.
I laid it off my leg, and I knew it, but I took off. They threw me out, run scored, Jason scored. I've done in the dugout, and the third base umpire come in there and said it's off his leg, off his leg. So I had 2 strikes then. Seemed like I come up, swung through the next curveball maybe. So I was down, I went from in the dugout helmet off to thinking we were tied, got 1 out, second, third, to immediately you just drop, you hang your head and you go over there. And I remember maybe Jay Blackwood coming out, hey, you didn't foul that off your leg. And I'm like, yeah, I did foul it off my leg. I knew I did.
Obviously, we got bases loaded, and we got 1 out, and Doug comes to the plate.
Here I go. This still, I can remember like it was yesterday.
And Doug Lucius comes up to bat. Doug, when I look back on it, and like I said, it's been 30 years, I can still see it just like it's yesterday.
I remember Doug pointing the bat at the pitcher.
Doug gets up the plate, and he points his bat out at the pitcher.
First, he taps his bat, and gets ready, and he points like...
Wooten, of course, he throws me the first one, and I think the glove had popped before I ever swung. And if you go back and watch the videos, I'd missed the ball by like a foot.
Swings and misses it this much.
And I remember the pitcher, barking at him.
Well, he throws me another one, and I miss it by about a foot. I was nowhere close. I was like a foot under it.
Misses again. So with 2 strikes, I just had the feeling that Doug would lay down a bunt, even with 2 strikes. And I gave him a bunt signal.
I also saw it. I also saw Dad give the indicator and tap the thigh, which is a bunt. And Josh Hughes was right next to me. And I said, he just gave him the bunt sign again.
I remember 0-2, and I remember looking at Rick, and he gave him the bunt. It was a safety squeeze. It wasn't the full-out squeeze.
I don't remember the signs. I remember him kind of telling me what was going to happen. Just me backing up a little bit and him saying, hey, he's fixing to lay the bunt down.
And I remember, because we were in the first base dugout, I remember looking at Rick, and I saw him give Doug the sign. And I thought, what in the world? 2 strikes, 0-2, 0-2, and he's going to call it, this guy could throw the ball 3 feet outside, but 0-2, but, it was obviously the ultimate element of surprise. And I think the pitcher's arrogance worked into it some because he was just ready to strike Doug out. But again, Doug gets in the box, and when he knew he was going to bunt, he did the same thing again. He puts his bat out at the pitcher.
I actually didn't see the bunt signal by Mr. Haddock. And I see Doug pointing his bat out there at the pitcher like he's fixing to knock the ball way out of the park, and he ain't even come close to hitting it.
And he's probably thinking, dude, you ain't hit but 1 ball in the whole state tournament.
And I don't even remember Coach Haddock giving a sign.
And he got a good pitch. He squared, and I can see him square and lay that bunt down.
And most people are not going to bunt with 2 strikes. But I think Doug was one of those guys that was a good bunter throughout his high school career. I think Coach Haddock believed that he could get it down. And
Doug laid down a perfect bunt.
But next thing I know, he puts it down, and I took off.
Pitcher comes over and picks it up barehanded and throws off balance and throws it past the catcher.
Shane Wooten had pulled a hamstring a little bit. He was having a little bit of a leg injury, so as he went for the ball, he kind of hobbled after the ball and tries to throw me out at home, kind of a sidearm throw to home, and then it gets by the catcher. It's a bad throw.
And, of course, that college backstop, it's a good ways back there. You're going to get at least one base, and you possibly could get two.
Of course, Jason scores easy from third, ties it up.
As soon as the ball went past the catcher and you see Brent Blackwood already turning third and looks like a train coming down the tracks.
And I remember Rick kind of waving his arm. When you go back and look at the video, it seems like I about knocked him out as I swung through there, but I don't think he could have stopped me once I made the turn.
And I'm looking up, and I see Brent Blackwood churning it. And there's no way I could stop him.
I thought, how in the heck did Brent Blackwood make it from second to home before I even made it to first?
Halfway down the line, Brent's coming. We're done out of the dugout running home.
And I never will forget, I was about 3 foot from first base. And I caught Kenny Campbell. He jumped straight up in there and was running back to home plate.
Brent slides in. The tag hits him about right here, and that's the winning run. Everybody goes nuts, the crowd and us on the field, piling on everybody. It was unbelievable.
Of the 7th inning, the last inning, Summertown holds a huddle, trying to stir things up. 3 singles, they got the bases loaded, 2 strikes on the batter, and he bunts. That's the tying run, and here comes the winning run. Doug Lussich with the bunt that put it across, and they win it dramatically. Summertown, the champs.
This is the biggest thrill of my career. Our school has never won a state championship before. We're a very small school, and I'm just pleased to death of these young men that's really put out a strong season this year.
So here are the scores. It was Summertown winning the title over Davidson Academy 3-2.
Luckily, I don't even remember the guy tagging me. When you go back and you look at the picture and you look, you know, if you watch the video, you'll see him putting a tag on me, and I don't even remember any of that.
I've watched it many times. I mean, it's awesome. You know, you just don't win games like that very much. I mean, you couldn't draw that up like that.
Jason looked like he was doing, you know, a big leg kick or something and jumping up in the air. And Robin Kidd, I'll never forget him jumping and hooping and hollering. He was dancing around. He was probably more excited than anybody.
And I just remember, you know, just jumping. And I don't know why I was jumping.
And then I remember Trent, my little brother. I remember him coming in at the end and just trying to leap on anybody, right? Just trying to like jump on anyone's back.
Kenny Campbell was the top one on the pile, you know, by the time everybody got together.
I do remember Coach Campbell coming out. It seemed like he carried some of us down.
Kenny Campbell just like with that long, lanky, you know, 6'5" body just comes in and almost like grabs the entire pile himself.
I remember jumping in there, taking my hat off or whatever, got in amongst them.
Remember running the backstop where they was all sitting, pointing at them, and it was amazing.
But then everyone turns and looks at the crowd. And we were just like, we did it, and thank you guys for being here.
You know, Greg and I both, I'd say, would have liked to have hit better.
How many hits you got, 2? I'm 2 for 9 or 10 of this. I'm 1 for 20, I think. So y'all? I swear I'm 1 for 10 or 11.
But honestly, at that point, we knew that state championship was because of everybody on that team, you know. And we had the type of team that when we weren't at our best, you know, other people, you know, picked us up. It's just almost kind of like one of those, hey, this was a meant to be kind of thing.
But I'd always wanted to experience that as a player, never got to do that, but got to experience it as a coach. It's a big thrill, but there's only a few feelings in life that you get, like the birth of a child or something. It's different than others, being baptized, you know, but it's something that'll stick with you the rest of your life.
All the crowd came after us, you know. They waited till we got out of the dugout area and just mobbed the whole bunch. It was a great feeling.
We had a habit of after every game, and you can see that on some of the videos, you know, my brother made, that the whole crowd would just kind of meet out there outside the dugout. One game I remember they said, hey, y'all are going to have to get out of the way because everybody wanted to, you know, greet us as we come out. But boy, especially that game.
State championships are not easy to come by. You can go look at the history of the county. Loretta and Summertown the last several years has had a lot of success, but you know, it's even hard to get there, much less win it.
There you go, Mr. Campbell. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Great champ.
There you go.
Well, I remember after the game, we went out there where the crowd was, and I couldn't hardly breathe for the longest.
It's amazing. It really was. Who would have thought? 2 strikes, bunt, you won the game, and you kind of feel for them, but we got the trophy.
And you realize that you know, you've just done something that nobody in Summertown High School history has ever done.
You do know they come up here and kicked everybody out of the tournament.
That's exactly right.
They beat everybody
Everybody.
here.
Everybody. What about it, guys? How's that feel? Great.
But I can remember Gary Kinnick cutting down the banner.
I was telling my dad about coming up here tonight, and he said he was standing next to Gary Kinnick. And I think most of Summertown always remember who Gary Kinnick was. And he said he was probably one of the most excited guys out of anybody there. He said he just remembers how excited he was, and him hooping and hollering and screaming and things, and then cutting the banner down. I remember him taking his knife out and cutting the state championship flag down.
As Tommy Lee is showing the banner that's tied up to the back of the bleachers, you see off to the side, as it's fading to white, you see Gary walking toward the sign with his knife, his little pocket knife, in his hand. So you know how the banner got on the front of the minivan.
We strapped it on Rick's van, and I think he drove all the way in with it.
By the time we got to the school, Coach McBee was the assistant principal, I guess, up here at that time. And he said, I got to have that banner. So they've already called from headquarters saying if we don't get that banner back to them, they're going to charge us $250 or something like that. So the banner was short-lived on the front of my van.
Oh, right back home was amazing. Everybody's on a high. We hear we're going to have a parade. People's going to meet us.
The drive home, I remember as we got closer to home, we knew there was going to be a celebration, and there was a huge celebration.
I'll never forget once we got back.
In May of 1992, when next to nobody owned a cell phone and no one had even heard of the internet, the entire community of Summertown somehow knew exactly when and where to meet to welcome home their champions.
But yeah, no cell phones, no internet, no social media. Who did that?
Well, I guess it had to be on the radio, and somebody just said, hey, we're going to be here.
The location was the old Hughes's grocery store, now the location of Summertown Sonic.
When we topped the hill and you seen the people come out, now that right there is what was a shocker. I'm thinking, wow. You know, I didn't think we had that many people in Summertown.
remember Robin Kidd being in the car with me and several other players, but we come up the old Rockdale Hill. We didn't have the current road that we have now. None of us was expecting anything like what was at Hughes Grocery down there. We topped that hill, and I told Robin and those in the car, I said, this is a sight that you'll never forget right here. And I was shocked too. I wasn't expecting it.
People were lined up to greet us when we come back. It was hard to believe when we topped the hill there at Rockdale Hill of the crowd that was waiting for us. They said, Jack Cheatwood's on the phone in here in the store. And so we did an interview over the phone.
Summertown coach Rick Haddock. Coach, congratulations. Thanks a lot. For those of you who may not have heard by now, the Summertown Eagles have won the state baseball championship. And you did it the hard way, Coach. Lost the first game and then reeled off 5 in a row.
That's right. We came back from the losers bracket the first day and won games that, right in a row.
Let's talk about that last inning. You were behind 2-1 going into the bottom of the last to Davidson Academy, a private school, or one of those little baseball schools.
Yeah, that's right.
And tell us about it. You loaded up the bases, and then you put on, the squeeze?
Doug Lucius come up, bases loaded and 1 out. And he got 2 strikes on him. And Doug just aired with confidence. And so I pulled it out of the gut, I guess. That gut feeling that you have sometimes, and flashed the bunt signal, and he laid it down. And on the ensuing play that followed, the pitcher threw the ball away as Jason Burleson scored the tying run. And Brent Blackwood was on second and scored all the way from second for the winning run.
Be honestly, Coach, and I know you want to get on to the celebration. Did you have any idea when this season started that this team might win the state championship?
Well, Jack, to tell you the truth, we've got an awful lot of talent on this team.
Oh, yeah.
And even though, we are a relatively young team, we only have 3 seniors, 2 juniors, and the majority of the team are sophomores. Mm-hmm. With the experience that they picked up in the last couple of years, I thought anything was possible.
Well, Coach, there's a lot of folks down here just extremely proud of you. And not only did they win it, but they won it with class. Congratulations.
After the interview with Jackie on the phone, people started saying, let's have a parade through Summertown.
They said, pile up. It's time to go. And it seemed like I got in the back of Larry Parrott's truck.
It wasn't riding on the fire truck. We was in the back of his truck riding around everywhere.
Karen Rupert, she had a white convertible, but we sat in that convertible and had this trophy in between us, and on the parade route, Jerry Ivy and different ones come up and shake our hand and stuff, that were good athletes in their own right, that, never won a state championship or anything. They were proud for us. It meant a lot.
Everyone just coming out and taking time away from their work, their daily lives.
The road was lined with people.
But I remember coming through Summertown and everybody standing on the side of the road, and I'm thinking, now, where does these people come from? Because they was all down here in vehicles a while ago, and now the streets are lined up.
But it is amazing. That was pre-social media or anything, to have that kind of crowd.
Seeing the number of people there it was like all of Lawrence County was sitting there.
Yeah, well, listen, we just paraded through Summertown. It was neat. I mean, everybody was on the side of the road. We stood in the back of a truck, and just rode through town and up here to the school.
We drove into the high school, the circle parking lot right there where the old elementary and the high school meet, and everyone stopped their vehicle. Dad got out with a ball, and he gave it to JT Schrader, which back then was our groundskeeper. He was at every home game. He was just, he was proud to hold up that baseball and show it off to people.
Remember seeing my papa and mama, which hadn't got to go to any of the games, sitting there in their car, and that was special.
I got anything to say? Outstanding.
Just so unexpected, I guess. And I think when something is so unexpected like that, and you win it, it just makes it even more, even that much more, better. And I think, again, I think it did a lot for Summertown baseball, you know, just for our school, our town, and it's, you know, thinking back on it, it's still special, you know, something I'll always keep, you know, with me, for sure.
Of course, parents of the players and other people in the community were here. We stayed out there and talked and celebrated for the longest time. And then we decided, well, we'd go through Lawrenceburg.
I'd mentioned something to Jackie about going to Lawrenceburg. He said, we'll welcome you down here. So we paraded all the way down 43 to Lawrenceburg.
And then we went down the streets of Lawrenceburg and had our own little parade there too.
And even we left here and went through Lawrenceburg, come back up Buffalo Road.
And was coming back to the school through Amish country. And we're still hollering, we're number one, and everything. And some little Amish boys and girls will stand there, oh, number one, yeah.
Every Amish kid raised their hand, we're number one, along with them, and they had no idea what we were celebrating, you know. But I've always wished I'd had a picture of that.
Yeah, they had a big party at the bank, and refreshments and food.
It's kind of crazy how it brings the community together, and I think that's what sports does, whether it's on the professional level, high school level, or whatever. It brings a lot of people together.
It's funny, you know, kids now, they've got slides or they got turfs or something like that, but I remember us all full dress uniform. I mean, when I say full dress, I remember walking around in my spikes.
So if you see, you know, the party at the bank was neat. It was something that the community bank did for us. But just a lot of neat things, you know, you see in that video. A lot of people that have passed on, you know, that you watch that video. You know, so you know, you saw Charlie Mabry, you know, there, you know, interviewing us at that. You know, you saw the three guys. You know, you saw, you know, Mr. Hester.
He might blow up into his band.
And then, of course, Coach McBee.
Coach McBee had made up a song or something that he sang about our baseball team.
You don't know that I play a guitar, others do, and you'll... I've written a song for this team this time, and I can't play and sing in the same key, but there goes Roger Kidd. He can swing the bat. He might run, but not much of that. He can pitch a game with a sore wing, but when he needs it, he'll make it sing. Let the baseball start.
You know, if anybody would have thought that Coach McBee would stand up with a guitar and write a song about our team, that was the Coach McBee that I guess a lot of people didn't know.
Just look at him go. When he coaches, he'll put on a show, and there never was a man coaching in this lane that can make him play like old Rick can. Let the baseball spotlight shine on up, let it shine on down. Say thank you to you guys for giving us this thrill.
Coach McBee had some baseball background, so he kind of knew what he was seeing, and so it's special to look back at that. And again, it's just Summertown is just a special community, you know, and you know, it was just a special day.
Charlie Mabry did interviews, interviewed players, interviewed our wives and stuff. Shelley's not real sports-minded, and I don't know about Ricky's wife, but boy, they really got into the baseball, and they enjoyed it. Paul Plant was the MC, and he done a good job.
Once in a while in your lifetime, you get involved in a circumstance that you probably didn't mean to get involved in, but it stays with you. And I dare say that as long as Doug Lucius lives and comes back to Summertown, Tennessee, every time he sees somebody, they're going to remind him of the bunt. Ladies and gentlemen, the bunter, Doug Lucius.
To pick up women today too? Is that what you're? No. Huh? I'm here to have fun. Oh, you are? Yeah, women are trouble. Oh.
And of course, Calvin Moore, they passed out these proclamations and different things. So it was neat.
Yeah, it's a pretty good shindig down here at the bank.
Well, I think it'll help the attitude of everything. I think that success breeds success. The attitude of the fans, enthusiasm, and everything. I think that's to carry over into every phase of the school. That's what makes this so special.
But I do believe it gave people hope that you could do something like that.
I think maybe with our team, it was just simply kind of planting the seed.
In my opinion, whenever it come down to that, as far as us winning it changed the whole county.
Because, baseball. That last game, if they don't throw that ball away, we may not win. But it broke loose something that, hey, Summertown win championships. And, we're stacking them up in several different sports.
I feel like a lot of kids come through here now, and that's kind of their goal, or if you're an athlete here, that whether it's baseball or basketball or football or tennis or volleyball or whatever, that if you're playing here, you have a chance to win a state championship. And, we talk about this as coaches. When you come through high school, most people get just 4 years to try to do that. And 4 years goes by really quick.
Greg Burleson went on to win a baseball championship for Summertown as its head coach in 2009 with his brother Jason as an assistant coach. Greg went on to accomplish the same feat in 2018 and 2021 as a softball coach, with daughter Aniston playing on the 2018 team and daughter Reagan in 2021. Larry Parrott's daughter Meg was also on the 2021 championship team. Jason Burleson's son, Grant, followed his uncle Greg's footsteps and won the Single A Mr. Baseball Award in 2021. As the high school golf coach, John Campbell won 2 state championships since taking over as head coach in 2020. His daughter Lainey has been on 4 championship teams, and his daughter Carly has been on 3.
It's good to see too that, the Burlesons, how successful they've been. It's not too many that get to be a player and win a championship and then turn around and be a coach, and I'm proud of all of them.
And like I said, I think it spurred a lot of interest. We have really racked up in the last 10, 15 years with our sports programs. It's some of the kids that we coached that have kids now that are great athletes just like them. Trent played his last year, graduated in 2001. He had a scholarship to play at Motlow State. My daughter was playing in Alabama, and I decided I was going to go watch him play. So I retired from coaching at that time and kept the road hot for 4 years watching them play. Spent 21 years up here on the ball field, and like I said, I was just elated whenever they said they were going to dedicate the field to me. And I believe that was in 2014. Had all the family here except Scott. He was out in California. I'd like to thank everybody at Summertown for the years that they backed me and Mr. Campbell. We had great support the whole time we were here.
Whatever the future success, however many banners ultimately hang in those hallowed halls, you never forget the first one.